If you have a question, just put your hand up and then these guys will get the mic to you, and then once you finish your question you can pass it back so that it's easy to move the mics around. Okay, the mic's working, guys, yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Hi there. In your experience, how could you best support a child with perhaps autism, or what changes would you make to support a child that was perhaps on the spectrum?
There's been a few kids in the college who've come along, been referred through student development with autism. So one of the first things that I notice with kids with autism is that they take instructions very literally. And so asking them to concentrate on the breath, the breath becomes really self-conscious. And any use of the word try, they will try. So a lot of emphasis on ease, on softening. And there's a paper, I think one of the few papers that's been done on mindfulness with kids with autism, that suggests a more diffuse focus. So if they're not using the focus of the breath, they can use touching into the sensations in the soles of the feet, and then keeping the practice quite light. So it might, when we're doing mindfulness of feelings, they might just check in on feeling is strong, difficult feeling, and then going down into the feet so they can rest into the feet, and then coming back and just checking in again, where's the feeling? And then if they need to, going back down into the feet. So I've been using that a little bit with some of the kids with autism. One of the things I noticed also in feedback with kids with autism who came and participated in a group, which was interesting and very lovely, I thought, in speaking of mindful community, is that some of these kids, as I noticed in my classes, have a lot of social anxiety. But to come and join a mindfulness group, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to socially relate, but they feel connected. So they're sitting in silence, so they're practicing together. They know they belong. They know it's there every lunchtime. It's the same group of people, and they don't need to try and translate their experience into words. They're sharing an experience. And that was one of the main pieces of feedback from them, that it was that sense of it's always there. I can always rely on it. And I belong there.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, is there going to be another one of these next year? I mean, I've come from London from Mind, and mindfulness with young people is a new thing for us. And even just in this short period that I've been here, I've met so many amazing people and so many useful contacts. And it's just, for people who are new to the field, it's fantastic to be able to integrate yourself into a network, to realise that we're not standalone entities. And the collaboration and the coordination and the ways in which we can give each other hands up in that sense to move the movement forward, I just think it would be really useful if this could become a recurring thing. And what do you think is the scope for that at your end? I know you're probably just reeling from the first one, but... I
think I'm exhausted, man. Yeah. No, I think it would be great. I'd love to do it. I was thinking when we were standing outside the fire alarm, well, next time we'll do it in the summer, But yeah, I think days like this are fantastic to connect and to have somebody like, as well, like Sahari coming here to show us that big picture, and how the big psychosocial connects to the molecular is kind of amazing, And yeah, this is something I'd definitely love to do every year. We kind of let the dust settle on this one, and we'll see where we're at for the next year, The other thing I think is we kind of see mindful community unfolding in two ways. One is with the 1 year training, we're hoping that we're going to support people by coming to the community of the training and meeting the community of committed practitioners, that they'll have the strength of practice to go back and start nourishing community in their own environment, But also we see the possibility of a kind of a nationwide, a larger community. So the other thing that we'd like to do is start doing like just weekends of practice where, maybe many of you guys will see each other again at a weekend of practice, and so you're touching in again with these people that are both on that kind of same path, that same motivation. And I think it's so powerful, Michael, you know what I mean? To kind of have that. I mean, I know when I started this work, I was doing it kind of pretty much on my own, I think, for maybe a year, and it was brutal, to be honest with you. Like, head teaching, like, what is this and stuff. And then I started to meet Lorna and Lindsay and a community of friends that I started to practice with in Glasgow, and I meet with them every week. We practice together, and it's so nourishing, so like indescribable, And I think community is key to it. I think there's a tendency to see mindfulness as kind of, something that you do. It's like a gym membership or something you just do. You sit on, you put on your phone, you think, okay, that's me done my 10 minutes, and I'm back into life and stuff. And that's great, but there's so much more to that, So yeah, we would like to do it again.
I wonder if you could say something more about your work in schools. I was interested, I know that you do a lot of 8-week courses in schools. What I'm interested in is the response from head teachers. Are there any schools who are looking to integrate mindfulness into their daily routine? And are there some local authorities who are more interested than others? It seems to me that it's growing. It doesn't seem like an even growth, though. So if you could just tell us a little bit more about your work in schools.
Yeah. Is that the question to me, yeah?
Whoever, yes, to yourself.
Okay. Yeah, it is varied, I think. I think in my experience, head teachers have got the most stressful job of any profession, So sometimes some head teachers are more engaged, more aware, In some schools, and head teachers think, okay, I've had some good feedback, it doesn't sound like a disaster, but they don't not that linked into it, There's one school in Glasgow that's the head teacher's really enthused and we're in conversations to try and turn the school into a mindful school. Which would be cool, and so training the teachers, and then that coming in as short practices every day for the kids, But yeah, it's kind of unfolding, and then with local authorities, it is very different. It's very, some local authorities are really engaged, some are taking longer. It is kind of different, but I think, in a way, I don't think as this unfolds, it needs to be uniform, Some people will kind of race ahead in what they're doing, other people will lag behind, but I think the people that race ahead will hopefully, because they're really committed to it, and they're really making it real and alive, then other people will start to see it and think, hey, let's do more of that, So I kind of see that's the way it'll tend to unfold,
First of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of you for a really inspiring day that I don't know if you all agree, but I think you've done brilliantly. I would just like to know, you both mentioned apps that are going to be coming out, and how will we find out about those? Will you get back in contact through the email list of today, or do we have to get in contact with you to find out about your app, and also the Baltimore guys? How would we find out about the app that you're developing?
If you go to our website and join our email list, we'll have all the there'll be events for it, there'll be a big launch and all that, so we can get you all the information through there. Facebook too, I'm sure we'll announce it on Facebook too, Facebook and our email list. You can sign up right from our website.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, with our app, what we're actually thinking about is, so there seems to be kind of two approaches in mindfulness. There's like face-to-face 8-week courses, and then there's apps, so there's no courses, and you get an app you can download, like lots of different apps now, mindfulness app, you put it into your phone and you'll find meditations and stuff. But what we thought was to combine the two, so that we get, because apps seem to be really supportive in helping people just develop the habit. You know, they're like really helpful. I mean, actually, the guy sitting right in front of me, my cousin Robbie, started practicing. Was it 18 months ago or something? 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and got an app and started practicing. And you were like on it every day for like 9 months, like every day. You know, he's also that kind of guy. You know, he like exercises all the time and stuff. So, you know, but no, it really such a good habit builder. But also we feel that kind of face-to-face community is so important. So the app that we're developing won't actually be available for kind of just general download. It's a kind of integral part of the course, because we think that like face-to-face learning is a key part of it as well. So it's to support the course. But maybe in the future we'll do other stuff. And we're looking to develop an app also for teenagers, you know, so that they can, as they go through the teens program, they can access the practices.
I'd just like to ask our American friends what they do with the weir ones, because we're really starting just working from kind of P4 up, which is about 7 or 8 year olds. But you talked about working with 4, 5 year olds. What do you do with them?
I know one thing that we do with kids that young is we come in with theme classes. Like we'll do a class on animals, like we will teach them different animal poses, or nature. We'll, teach them like the tree pose, or, things like that to get them engaged. And then also just make them have fun. Honestly, they'll be open to anything once you make them have fun and they're enjoying themselves. But the theme classes helps us out a lot with the younger kids.
And a lot of movement. When they're that young, it's like if you try to get them to sit right away or work on their breath, like it's not going to work. So get them to move around, get them to burn off some of that energy. So a lot of physical practices, burn off that energy, then they can sit and they can breathe, and then finally they can do some type of meditation at the end.
Hi there. Sorry. I found the Holistic Life Foundation really inspiring. I was interested how they thought the fact that they're from the community where they're now getting a lot of success, how that would translate to other places who are trying to do something similar, but they maybe haven't had that kind of enlightened upbringing that you had, yet you've still got that reality of coming from a block, if you want, So how it would translate to other places.
So I think it goes both ways. So when we go and teach, we teach in a lot of different places all over the States. And I think it starts with making that connection with the group that you're working with. So if you can connect with them on a person-to-person, human-to-human level, then you can start teaching from there. It's worked everywhere we've gone. We teach in underserved communities in Baltimore, we teach in private schools, we teach everywhere, and just that connection, and like we said earlier, coming from that place of love and making it fun, the kids connect with you, and then you can start teaching. And then I know a lot of our really good volunteers that come to our after-school program aren't from the communities that we're in. They don't look like us, but it's just the same thing, that authenticity that they bring and they come with, and they make the good connections with the kids, and then the kids can learn. So I feel like you can be successful wherever you are if you've got good skills to teach and you're coming from that authentic place.
I also had a question for you guys from Holistic Life Foundation. You talked really frankly about some of the circumstances in which the kids that you're working with are living in, and I was just wondering to what extent or what role you see for mindful communities in terms of challenging the more structural side of life, the circumstances and the social determinants that make the circumstances that people are living in, and what we can do as mindful communities to challenge that or bring compassion into those systems.
I guess just to start, I know just teaching the skills is the first place to go. A lot of the kids, they don't have someone that supports them and loves them and nurtures them, and they're not connected with themselves. I think that's where it starts. They're not connected to themselves. So there's all these things going on inside of them, and they're not aware of them, and they're kind of reacting and lashing out at people, and they're depressed or they're angry. There's all these emotions going on, I feel like the mindfulness gives them a way to kind of connect to it and connect to themselves. And then from there, you can kind of start making bigger changes. I know the community-wide changes that we've been seeing are a lot around teaching our students to be teachers and giving them job opportunities. I mean, because you can have that inner peace, but at the same time, like there was a big group of students that we had where they were really into their practice, but because of the hand that life dealt them, they were out on the streets, so they were doing things that were illegal. But I mean, at times we'd have to kind of rein them in and kind of have talks with them to kind of center them a little more, because there was a lot of violence going on in the neighborhood. There was a lot of crazy things going on at that point. I think we put ourselves in a lot of situations that when we look back at them, we're kind of stupid. But I mean, we cared about the kids, so we were just out there in the middle of it. And I think one of the big shifts has been providing them with job opportunities around what we're doing. I mean, and like the kids that specifically from that group that work with us, they're like role models and heroes to the ones that are incarcerated right now. And when they get out, that's what they want to do. Like, yeah, that's what I want to do, because they see them doing something positive. They're using their energy to bring up the community that they're in. And I mean, they have apartments, they have jobs, they have so they're doing well for themselves. It's not anything illegal that they're doing, so they're not all stressed out all the time or putting out all that negative energy. So, the practice and then opportunities.
And I think when other people see the youth making that change or doing the difference, like when we're in our neighborhood and the kids are cleaning up the neighborhood and they're cleaning the streets and cleaning up people's yards, it makes the adults start saying, I need to step up. Look, the youth are the ones making the change, and then they want to do more for their community as well. Or when they get home and they're stressed out and they go to yell at their child, and their child's like, Mom, you're stressed out. I need to teach you how to breathe. I think that's when the parents are like, wow, I need to start doing what they're doing. And I think that's when that sense of community and that family feel again starts coming. And I think it just kind of starts happening naturally. I mean, it's not something that we try to do or to implement, we just do the work. We know how it makes people feel. And I think that as people start observing what's going on, everyone wants to play their part in making the neighborhood and the area a better place.
I'd just like to say a big thanks as well, because I've got an awful lot out of today. But I work in a slightly different sort of school. I work in an independent girls' school in Aberdeen. But what I see amongst our students is a growing and real anxiety, which is clearly not connected to deprivation, but actually is a sort of different sort of deprivation in a way. Which comes, I think, amongst what we would recognise as middle-class people sometimes. We have a lot of girls with eating disorders and just a real massive growing anxiety about the future. What's going to happen to me if I don't get to university, get these grades. So I sort of see there's a real role for mindfulness in all areas of life, really. And I just wanted to ask you one very practical question, thinking about my school. Do you find that when you go into schools, you get any resistance or kickback from parents, actually? I mean, are they suspicious about your practice? Do they think it's a kind of, maybe a, sort of religious thing wrapped up in something else?
We don't anymore. When we first started teaching, we sat down with one of our board members, and we showed him our curriculum, and it had like all types of like Sanskrit terms in there, and Buddhist terms in there, and he let us know that we need to take all of this out and just make it available for everybody. Still teach the lessons, but take any of the wording that will confuse people that this is like religious, take it all out. So instead of like saying like karma, we'll say like the golden rule, or what goes around comes around. Instead of meditation, we'll say silent reflection. So it's just having that language to be able to know, to make it inviting instead of scaring people away who are, who would associate it with religion and stuff like that. So we just, use the right type of language.
Yeah, and speaking to your school, I know for a while we didn't teach in the private schools in Baltimore, just because you're thinking like, oh, the kid, it was just, the opportunities weren't there, and we're thinking like these underserved communities, they need it really badly. And the first time we worked at a private school, it was an all-girls private school, and just we went in, we did our program, and just listened to what they were stressed. Like you were saying, that achievement anxiety. Like they're really stressed out for a whole different reason. Like there's a lack of connection to their parents, and there's a lack of love from their parents for a whole other reason. So like there's all that stress is there, all that anxiety is there for different reasons. So like you're saying, everybody needs it. So it was an awesome to go in there and experience that. And like we've been made a more concerted effort to get into the private schools in the Baltimore area, just because everybody needs it.
A lot of schools at the moment have got a wellbeing agenda or want to kind of bring that in, and certainly that's the case in my school. And I just wondering if there's any reservations about schools adopting that and people being asked to teach it that don't come from that authentic place, that it just becomes something that PSD teachers, for instance, have to do the same way that they teach sex ed, and many people don't want to teach sex ed. And my reservation is, will that damage the mindfulness name, and have you come up against anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's a, it's a concern, and we want mindfulness to grow. We want as many people to be able to reach this practice as we can, but we want them to have a deep experience of mindfulness. So yeah, I have known of some high school teachers who haven't had any personal experience of mindfulness, but they've been given a unit to work through on mindfulness, and that's where it's like outcome-based. I've gone through the body scan, I've played a meditation off YouTube, and yeah, my concern would be then that the students are not only are they not having a deep experience of practice, they're not having a deep relationship with the teacher, because there's something of a transmission of, this meant something to me. This, when I meet with my students, this changed my life. And when I was your age, I was really anxious, and this really helped me. And I'm willing to take off the mask of being a teacher and be a vulnerable human being and talk about everything to do with my relationship with my body, my feelings, my crazy mind. And I think that's what we're doing in mindfulness teaching. So we need people who are willing to walk that path with them, because they've had experience of walking that path. They've come to know their feelings, their minds, so that they can go on that journey with kids. Yeah. And I guess that's, the hope is that we want to offer the kinds of environments where people can come and experience that for themselves, so that they can go on and share it.
Yeah, one other thing just to share is, just to your point, I think it is a big fear. I think that the sad thing as well is, if somebody has a taste of mindfulness and they think, that was a lot of rubbish, you know what I mean? It could turn them off for ages, that could be, maybe it could be something helpful to them, but the person that brings it to them is inauthentic, and so they lose an opportunity to engage with it for the rest of their life, maybe. One of the things, in order for people to do training in the train to teach a curriculum, they have to have gone through an 8-week course, and then also engage in at least 6 months of personal practice, which I really consider like a bare minimum. It really is the absolute minimum. I think once you've been practicing mindfulness for 5-6 years, you think, wow, I don't know anything about this. I'm a beginner. You know what I mean? You practice, so it is a lifelong practice. One of the things we're also working on with Aberdeen University and the General Teaching Council is to provide professional recognition for teachers that teach mindfulness in schools, and if they go through a training route, and the training route would be an 8-week course, 6 months of personal practice, the 5-day curriculum training, and then they get professional recognition. They also have to submit like a journal and that kind of thing. So there is a move to try and put some bare minimum standards in it, and I think it's also important to, sorry. That's okay. yeah, there's also an element of, I remember John Kabat-Zinn talking about this one time where he said, you know, if the house is the building is burning, do we, you know, wait until we're like a 5 years, like you get training for 5 years as a fireman, now you can go and pour the water, you know? Actually, in some ways, just to start teaching kids to breathe, if you can connect with that and you, wow, this brings me peace and calm, so that's an authentic thing for you, and you've only been practicing for 2 months or 3 months, and then you're going, kids, I like to do this. Just listen to the bell, see what it feels like to just focus on your breath for a minute. Then that's authentic, you know. If you take it more and then you can take the kids further, then that you know, there's much more that we can do. But yeah, I hear your concerns, and I think we need to keep the bar high and keep banging on about it. Keep banging on about. We have to practice. It has to be embodied. It's not an idea. We have to have it in ourselves, you know.
Yeah, just to build on what both of them were saying, I mean, I think that authenticness of it is essential. I think that the sharing of the stories, I thought that was brilliant what you said. I mean, that so often happens where when you say, I went through this, and I used this, and it changed me. You know, when they can feel that, it's like you're sharing personal information with them. That's what really makes that impact. And I just to, you know, we're in a state now where we're growing immensely, and we have to train lots of people, and we're very wary of making it watered down and just finding someone who's a teacher. We make sure that the majority of them are students who have been through our program and who have done it for years. You know, like Michael said, I mean, we've been doing this for 12 years now, and I still feel like I'm a beginner. You know what I mean? It's lifelong practice, and you're going to constantly be working at it. But at the same time, again, with the fireman story, it's a perfect story. You don't want to say, well, let's just watch the house burn. I mean, I can get a bucket of water and pour it on the house. You know what I mean? I'm not a fireman, but I can help out. You know what I mean? So it's a catch-22. There's a fine line to it.
Okay, maybe we'll take like one more question.
This is less of a question. Again, thank you all very much. It's been just a wonderful day. This is maybe more of a comment that your associate's training, I think it was the associate's training, is going to be focused more on cultivating kindness and joy rather than stress reduction. And I just love that. And I do a lot of stress management. It's great, isn't it? I do a lot of stress management training for humanitarian aid workers. And I've gotten so tired of that language, stress management, because to me it feels like another job that you add on to your already busy schedule. So I'm going to wake up and I know that there's stress going to be in my day because that's just the baseline, and then I'm going to have to manage it on top of everything else. And I keep thinking, you know, there must be a better way to articulate this and to go about it. So I just really want to applaud you for taking that baseline, that stance, that coming from kindness, from joy, from love, and I think it's going to be a huge shift, actually. So I think you're pioneering something very important.
Yeah. Okay, so in the spirit of practice, maybe we can finish where we practice. Yeah, we mean small or short. Okay. So we'll only practice for like 1 minute, 2 minutes or something, you know. But just a chance to breathe before we go off, and then we can chat, and we're all going our separate ways and stuff. Okay. So you can just begin by listening to the sound of the bell. As always, it can be helpful to take a few deeper breaths. And just allowing the mind to kind of rest down into the body. maybe we can reflect even for just a moment for yourself. What has been valuable for you today? And then another question might be helpful. Is there an aspiration that comes out of today? Is there an intention, maybe, after this day is over and moving forward? Or maybe the intention or aspiration is just beginning to coalesce, it's just kind of beginning to emerge. Could be very simple, could be bigger, just reflecting for a moment or two. And then noticing whatever has arisen, or whatever is continuing to rise, and then letting go of the questions and just coming back to the breath. Just enjoying the nourishment of the in-breath, and maybe the sense of letting go, release of the out-breath.